Hi guys, we are from Taval. My name is Shreyas, and here I have with me Nate. We're self-taught software developers, and today we're going to be talking about is it possible to become a developer in 3 months? Is it a myth, or is there some kind of truth to it? So this is the podcast topic for today, and I'll give it forward to Nate.
Yeah, so there seems to be a lot of content online describing how it's possible to become a software developer within 3 months' time. And while this is, necessarily the truth in some cases, our opinion is that while you can become a developer, you might not just be a very good one when you start and rush with things to get a job within 3 months' time.
Definitely agree with that. I mean, as being a self-taught developer, when I saw videos and articles saying that you can become a developer in such a short time, I bought that hype, and uh, I tried to unnecessarily put more pressure on me in order to reach that goal of in becoming a developer in 3 months. And along the way, I certainly missed out on learning some key things it is in programming concepts. And now that I'm very well aware and I'm retracing back my steps, I'm able to sort of go through the modules. If anything I've missed, trying to understand programming on a much deeper level. And like you said, all of these articles they miss that element, which makes all of this that more challenging. They just paint a different picture to the people reading it, and I think that's very misleading.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like the web development field can become quite abused by people who say, "Oh, you can become a developer in 3 months." And what happens is that you'll find people on the job copying and pasting a lot of their code and not necessarily having that in-depth understanding right at the beginning when it's the most crucial.
Yes, and this is absolutely true. And when you find people getting into freelancing, saying that they've just sold out developers and everything, you can't guarantee yourself any kind of decent quality in their code because it's a hit or miss. Like Nate said, if you understand the problem, you'll understand how to craft that solution instead of borrowing code from places like Stack Overflow or GitHub and trying to integrate them into your existing code and try to make it work. But if you understand them, you will be able to go much deeper, and you will be able to understand as to why it works a certain way and why maybe it may not be the perfect solution to this problem you're facing. Another negative point from this is that when you encourage people to learn development so quickly, there will be an influx of so many developers, and that's not exactly a good thing because companies or other people, they think that they may have a very rash opinion of us. They may either think we're super intelligent, or they may just think, you know what, this market is flooded. I can't exactly
Yeah, and I
trust
wanted
these.
to say that if this is true, that you can become a web developer in 3 months, wouldn't the market really be saturated right now by a lot of kind of starting out developers?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are these so-called terms going as: Are you a good developer? Are you a great developer? Or are you a rock star developer? And all of these terms can be misleading because each of them has a certain different requirements in different stages of a career. So when you get saturated, you can't you know these terms which they use to describe these developers, they just get diluted. They lose its meaning. So you can't distinguish someone who's a good versus great versus rock star. They're all in the same pool. So
Yeah, and some of the kind of inflated expectations around this subject is that, if you can become a web developer in 3 months, you're going to be able to get a very big salary. Sometimes people claiming up to 6 figures.
yeah, that's absolutely misleading because when they quote you, you get a six-figure salary. It's only if you're living in the most expensive cities in that particular country, and that also differs from country to country. In some countries, you may not get a six-figure salary, even if you're living in the most expensive city in that particular country. For example, in London, if you're a front-end engineer or front-end developer starting out, you might get something around 40,000 pounds, maybe
I would say
fifty
even
thousand pounds.
I've heard of junior developers starting at £26,000. So that's junior
Yeah,
developers. It's not a bad salary, but there will be people out there abusing the fact that they have a lot of choice between newcomers.
unfortunately, all these articles they just paint this kind of perfect image that this is the perfect hack. You can hack yourself into this industry by working hard, self-teaching, programming concepts, and just land up with a six-figure salary right out the bat. It's not true. It takes a lot more than that, and I sincerely wish these articles, these videos of other YouTubers would cover that. They do cover eventually, but by then you would have already jumped on the hype train thinking that, oh, you know what, I'm getting value out of this. But only after you dip your feet into this will you understand what you've gotten into. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just that you should be aware of the caveats before getting in. You should not put all your hopes in one thing and then expect results to just come from day one.
And also, it's pretty much about setting expectations. Yes, you can become a developer in 3 months. Yes, you will not be the best. There is still too much to learn. And yes, you will be one of thousands upon thousands applying to get into the market. And to be honest, the most difficult thing necessarily isn't getting the first job. It's actually becoming a senior dev and staying in that job. Because if you're not putting like 110% of effort in your current role, you won't get very far. People might just get tired of you if you're not delivering results and figuring out and writing code without any bugs.
There's also this trend that employers are continuously seeking more and more from entry-level developers. And this is partly due to the fact that there are so many influx of developers thinking that, oh, you know what, in 3 months I can get a job. So employers are starting to be very picky about who they want to select. For example, I've seen job posts where it's for a web developer, a junior role, like bare entry level requirements, and they're asking me, the person or the candidate, to know how to be a graphic designer and also how to be a web developer. And these are sort of like this is sort of like the unicorn skills or the unicorn roles in the tech industry. And also they're expecting the front end candidate or the web developer candidate to have a knowledge of back end. Like, if you want all of that, why do you want to advertise that as a plain web developer focused on front end? It doesn't make any sense. So you have to. All of this is indirectly impacting other factors along the way, other stuff like this along the way, and it's hurting the existing people who are trying to get in, and it's also discouraging a lot of others and making them switch on to something else.
One of the things that I wanted to also talk about is why it's very difficult to solving problems at an industry standard. A lot of the courses that people take online are usually very generic in the problems they're solving. They're either doing a blog post, some sort of to-do list, or like an application, right? That's just about covering enough edge cases to potentially give the feeling that, oh, like this is a very thorough course. But when you come into the market and you start working in a real job, you're going to have a lot of requirements which are very different than you've actually done online. And also those problems you're trying to solve, you have to do it within the world of an existing code base from other developers who have maybe different experience levels than you, and you might be reading stuff you do not understand. So then again, the courses online to help you become a web developer in 3 months are limited in the fact that there's hardly ever any teamwork aspect, or you're ever reading a code base from someone and then actually trying to implement problems within a code base you don't completely understand.
Yes, that is definitely true. And also, you see these courses, at most, I would say they won't teach you more than 2,000 to 2,500 lines of code, and that is for probably one of the best courses you can see on Udemy. In real world, if you're working on front end, for example, and you're chosen React framework library or something, you will come across companies and the code base having thousands of components. There will be a component for a small thing, which for a small visual representation, a component for an API request, a button, and all that. Whereas in your applitions, like a to-do list, which you do in your tutorials or your courses, it won't be that much. You will barely work with maybe 10, 15, 20 components at most. So that is also something you have to take in mind. You have to prepare yourself. And these courses, yeah, they can prepare you to understand these concepts, but you are never ready. You are never ready when you enter the industry. And if you understand that, and if you're consistently learning and trying to engage yourself in projects like open source, which involves you reviewing code of other people and other people also reviewing your code, passing feedback, you learning, making errors, mistakes, and in that kind of situation, I think that's a really good way to learn rather than just doing courses alone.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And many other ways of learning include, just not limiting yourself to the web developer experience. You should maybe change the mindset that you should become a developer, someone who's proficient in the programming languages and the tools, whatever they may be, that you're able to mix and match them and then make good solutions. It's not all, doom and gloom that the web developer market is saturated. I would say that as much, the industry is also growing in demand. So, even though there's a lot of influx at this point in time of developers coming in, I'd say that the demand is definitely growing as more companies try to go digital.
Yes, that is absolutely true. When you're having a mindset while learning code, you have to learn to understand, not to learn to. You should not have any kind of materialistic goal. Your first focus is to understand why this works, why it's like that.
Yes, exactly.
So that's it, guys, for this podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also we will include a playlist for the podcast in the description. We also have our other social media links, like our Twitter, Instagram, and our Discord channel if you'd like to join us, as well as our open source GitHub repo. So we